Hey guys, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible. Just do let me know, guys, if I'm audible as well as visible in the chat. So I hope people have started joining in. Great. So again, I welcome everyone in today's discussion. So we are into our playlist, which is data analysis in 3 weeks, right? And we have been discussing some quite good topics here. Governing
So I hope
majorly
people have
into
started joining in.
Python, so Python data types, and then we discuss about lists, tuples, we discuss about dictionaries, we discussed about functions, lambda functions, a lot of other operations as well, right? So today our topic of discussion is file handling, right? So how we can create the files, what are the different modes, how you can change a directory. So basic things which is very much required in the day-to-day requirement. So you need to open a file and then you just kind of dump your data in that. And so how you do that, right? So we're gonna be discussing all of that part today. So that's gonna be a part of agenda. Cool. Akash, good evening. Thank you for joining us. So I hope others have also started joining us. So a warm welcome to everybody again. So we are into our playlist of data analysis in 3 weeks. File handling is our discussion topic today. But again, as you know, we are pretty much live, and I'm also monitoring the chat, right? So as always, I would want this session to be pretty much interactive, right? So let's try to interact as much as we can. Let's try to talk. Any questions, any concerns, right? So do put up in the chat. I'll try to take that. Okay. Cool, great. So let's start, guys. So before starting, as always, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Arpit Jain, and I'm a lead data scientist myself. I have been into industry for almost 9 years now, into multiple domains. Name it like I was in finance sector earlier, then I was in a cloud domain, I was in manufacturing, automobile, and right now I'm in telecommunications. So multiple domains I've been working with, and that's the leverage of data science, right? So you have that freedom kind of a thing, but again, so it comes with if and buts, definitely. So any questions regarding domains, any question regarding your data science journey, jobs, so do let me know that, because I'm also, along with that, a motivational speaker. So I take up industry sessions, I talk to students regarding their job, career, placements, and all those queries. Right, so do not hesitate to put up your questions. So I'll try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Right, so let's try to utilize the time we are here for the live session, and let's try to talk as much as we can. Okay, cool, great. So let's start, guys. So I'll just quickly pull up the content slide. So just give me a minute. I'll just pull up that. Okay, I've prepared the content. Meanwhile, guys, as I was asking, anybody is having any concerns from whatsoever we have discussed so far? I mean, any concerns from our topic of discussion? So we have been discussing a lot of things, right? So we have discussed about our individual topics. So we solved some problems as well, right? So did anybody face any problem in any topic we have discussed so far? Anybody has any concerns? Or I hope you guys are also solving questions when you're going home, right? So I hope this is pretty much happening. So guys, do let me know if you have anything which you want to, right? So right. So that's pretty much about it. So guys, as always, I'm monitoring the chat. Any questions, do let me know. Okay, so I will be monitoring the chat and we'll try to take that. Cool, let's start. So what is file handling, right? So what is file handling? So file in Python actually does support file handling and allows users to handle files. And what do you mean by handle files? So there are a lot of operations which you perform on files, right? You read the files, you write the files, and along with that, many other file handling options, such as you're going to append some already available information to your existing file. You're going to read and append together. So there are a lot of such operations. I mean, basically you perform on files, right? So that's how it happens. So in Python also, you have the functionality where you can read, where you can write, where you can append. So a lot of modes of such things are possible in Python. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So the concept of file handling has stretched over various other languages as well. So it's not like Python is the only language where you can do the file handling, right? Rather, here the implementation is very simple and easy and short, okay? While compared to other languages, it's a bit complicated and lengthy. So if you talk about the file handling concept in Python, it's pretty straightforward. It's easy and short and very easy to implement, okay? It's pretty straightforward. So it's like once you are aware of the different modes of files you want to work with, like the read mode, the write mode, we'll talk about of such modes, right? There are certain modes which we should be looking forward to, right? So here file handling becomes quite easy once we are aware of those modes, okay? And here each line of code includes a sequence of characters and they form a text file, okay? So whatever we input to my file as a sequence of characters, they form the text for my file, okay? So whatever I'll be passing it as my element, the more of the content for the file, it becomes the text for that file, okay? We'll see that. So here each line of a file is terminated by a special character. Remember that. So here, since it's a text, right, it's more of a kind of a string kind of a thing, right? So it's more of a text for me. So here if we have multiple lines, so each line of a file is terminated by a special character we call as end of line, EOL, right? And it could be either like a comma or like, slash, depending for the line character, right? So it's basically a new line character which defines that, okay, now my first line has ended and now the second line would be starting up, right? So it's more like an identifier for my end of line. So that's how my file handling works. Okay, plain simple. So let's try to see how different functions are available and what all different modes are there, right? So quickly I'll just explain you that. So very simple thing. So how you gonna open a file? Okay, so you're gonna use the function open. Okay, that's the keyword open, and you have the file name and the mode. So that's how we define this as, okay? So file name and mode, that's how we write this as. So here f becomes my file, okay? So f is the variable which I'm defining through a file, and open is the function which opens a file, which creates a file for me, okay? Plain simple, nothing fancy here. So in this open function, we have two arguments. You can see that, right? So I have first argument as file name. So the name of the file which I want to pass through this, and the second is mode. Mode means the exact mode I want this file to be of, like, read mode, write mode, so a lot of other things. So we'll see that, the modes also. Cool. So as you can see here, there are still, it's not only 6, so I've mentioned 6 modes here. There are still few more modes. You'll come to know as and when if required. But these are the major of my modes available here, right? So plain simple. So you can see R, W, A. So one is R, second is W, third is A. So R is read, as simple as that. I'll come to that. W is write, A is append. Okay, so it's plain simple. R, W, and A. R is for read, W is for write, and A is for append, right? And now we have two things: R plus, W plus, and A plus, right? So these are again the modes. I'll talk about them one by one. Okay. So R is the mode which is like open. It opens an existing file for a read operation. So it does not create a new file. So I mean, it's more like, and it's open an existing file for a read operation. You're gonna read that file, the whatever file name you're gonna give, right? So it opens an existing file, right? So here now for about the W operation, which is write, so it opened an existing file for a write operation. So what you have some content with you here. Now you want to write that data, whatever content you have, into the file name, whatever you'll be passing, right? So if the file already contains some data, then it will be overwritten. Remember this. So if your file, for example, X, file name, whatever X is your file name, right? And it already has some data, right? So and if you use the mode as W, it's gonna overwrite that data, the content which you have in that file, right? It's gonna overwrite that. So that's how my W will be. Cool. Now A is the advanced part of my W. So again, the usages could be different depending on the requirement, but A is the append here. Now this same thing, it will do the same operation to write operation, but in this time it won't overwrite. It will append. It will add the new information on the existing information. Cool. Suppose in the file X I have say 10 lines, okay, and and I'm using the W operation which has the new data with 2 lines. So after W, the updated file will have only 2 lines because the previous 10 will get omitted. It will get overridden, right? But if you use A as a mode, the output will be having not 10, not 2, it will be having 12 lines, right? So 10 plus 2, append ho jayega usme. Cool. That's a plain simple R, W and A mode. Now what is R plus, right? So R plus is used to read and write data into the file. So previous data in the file will not be deleted. So here we're going to read and write at the same time into the file. So we're going to read first and then write the data into the file. Okay. Likewise, W plus, we're going to write, first we're going to write the data and then immediately we're going to read it. So it will overwrite the existing data, whatever it's present in the existing file. Okay. And A plus is to append. So as soon as we append the data, we're going to again read the same file. So we are performing two operations at the same time. So R plus is read and write, W plus is write and read, and A plus is append and read. Got it? As simple as that. So these are my 6 major modes available in my file handling. Okay, and we're gonna see one by one the working functional working of these as well. Okay. Hey Ali, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Great. So now look at this first example. Just a minute. I think I put this here. So now look at this first example. Okay. What we are trying to do is we are trying to create a new file. Okay. We are trying to create a new file. And the name of the file is geek.txt, and we are doing it in a read mode. Okay. And now what we're doing is, so once we have opened the file name is file. Now we are printing the content of this file. So for each in file, we are printing each. So simply we are printing each of the content of my file, right? And also look at this, guys. So once we have opened the file, we are giving the complete file name here. We're giving the file name as geek.txt. So we are specifying the format of the file also. Okay. So remember this. So in open, we are specifying the format of my file as well. So geek.txt is my file which I'm opening here, and the mode is my read. So as soon as I print this, I'll get an error. The reason is I won't be having a file geek.txt. Does that make sense? Because my geek.txt file does not exist right now. Did I say that? Here in my read format, it will open an existing file. You got it? I'll open an existing file here. It won't print the data which I have. So I mean, it won't by default print the data as it is. Okay. The file has to be existing. It cannot create a new file. So remember this. R is always like it has to open an existing file. It cannot create a new file on the run. So now in this case, this file is not existing, right? So now what we'll do is I'll quickly create this file. Just give me a minute. I'll just create it and show it to you how we can do that. Just give me a minute. Right, so I'm just creating this new file. So I hope you guys are understanding the points, right? What I'm trying to make here. Right. So just give me a minute. Cool. So now what I've done is I've created the same file geek.txt in the background. Okay. The same. Now here, what important thing is the location. Okay. So now, as I said that I'm going to open this file geek.txt. When the file was not existing, it gave me an error that file did not exist, right? Because we know that in the read mode, it cannot create a new file. It will only read the existing file, right? So now to make sure that this code is running, I created this geek.txt file in the background. And now where did I create this? The exact location where this file is here. So this file handling notebook is there for me, right? The place where this file handling is there for me, I just created it the same place. Okay. And I simply replaced this, geek.txt there, and I added the 2 lines. So which is like hello and GeeksForGeeks. Okay. So now if I print my each for in the file, I'm going to get my elements here, hello and GeeksForGeeks. Okay. This is what I had my data in the text file. But now again, important thing to note here is, what if this text file is not there in that directory? What if that text file is not there in the directory in which I am working on right now. It might be in some other directory. It could be in some other directory, right? So for example, if I have this directory in some other path, right? So for example, suppose if my path is like say C, C colon slash, and then I have in say like say what say users or say desktop, and then I have say new folder, and then I have say GFG for example, then I have say a geek for geek.txt. Okay, just imagine that this geek.txt file is not in the location where my file is there. Okay, this notebook is there. So in this case, instead of passing only the name, I have to pass the entire path where exactly this file is there, right? Suppose if my file is on the desktop in a new folder, under a new folder I have another subfolder GFG, and under that I have this geek.txt file. So this is my entire path of my file, right? Now if this is the case, then I have to replace this entire thing like this here. I have to pass the entire path of my file. Did you get it? Anybody is having any question? And also remember that in Python, when you pass the slashes, when you pass the more of your directory breadcrumbs, right? So you always use forward slash. You never use backward slash. You always use forward slash. Okay. So remember, this is something important. Okay. So it needs to be true that wherever your file is, you have to open that file only. And if your file is not present in the directory from where you're running the code, you have to specify the directory. Okay. As simple as that. Okay. Cool. Great. Sure. Let's proceed. Now, we have already done that, so we'll not see. Okay, so let's use this only GeeksForGeeks text for now. Okay, and let's do this. Let's see this. Okay, so now what I did here first, I printed the entire element, right? So I did for each in file print each. So basically it is printing using the end of line concept. So I told you, right? So in each of the file, there are two lines in this. So I'll just show you the text file also first. Just give me a minute. I'll just show you the text file. How does it look like? Where did it go, man? Right. Okay. So just let me know if my screen is visible. Okay. So this is how my notepad looks like. So this is plain simple. Okay. So you have two lines here, hello and geeks. You can see this, right? So this is my overall notepad. So this is my hello. This is my first line, and this is my GeeksForGeeks, my second line. So this is my first line. This is a second line. So this is my second line. So I have two lines here. Okay. This is how this looks like here. And once I go back to my my file handling notebook, right? So just a minute, let me pull this up. Right. So in this case, there are two ways I can print out the files. I can see the content. Or first is I can run it in a loop. So wherever the end of line parsing is there, it's going to print me the elements. Or the next thing is I can simply do a print of the entire read statement. So it'll print the content as it is. Okay. So it did not need to be line or something. So it'll print the entire content as it is. So as simple as I'm going to print the entire. I can still do that. Okay. Okay, so Vasant has a very good question. How to know the my Jupyter file is located in my PC? Very good question. Very good question. So again, so to find out the files, so we have a very good. In fact, I'll be covering that topic also later. But since you've asked it, I'll tell you. So we have a very good library called as OS. Okay, so it's a very good library. So all the file related issues like your location of your files, changing of a directory, finding a directory, listing the files in a directory. So you get it in the OS. So OS is a library which takes care of all your file handling or data handling, the path handling and all that. Okay. So once you see that in OS, you have a function called as list dir. Okay. So if you use list dir, so it will get you the list of files available under the directory which you are passing. And in this, you can always pass the directory wherever you are. Okay. So you can, this list dir function will give you the files which are present in a directory which you are listing on this, right? And you can always put an if statement there. So if my file in os.list dir, whatever directory you'll be passing here, right? For example, you can always say that, print true, for example. So this is the way you can figure out if my file is there in the directory or not. Okay. So I'll be covering this anyway later. So I'll be showing you that. Okay. So quickly again, one more thing. So instead of reading the entire text whatever is present, I can also read the character. Read the text character wise. Okay. I can specify that I don't want to read the entire text file. I want to read only the first 5 characters. So in the read function, I can also pass the number of characters I want to find out. Okay. So if I do it like this, I can just see top 5 characters. I can do 4 also. So maybe, this hell will be printed. And then if I give 6, so this space character will be printed. And then if I have to press say 7 or say 10, then I'll be getting something like that. Okay. Cool. Makes sense. Okay. So I have to do it for GeeksForGeeks actually. So right. So if I do it for 5 here, then I'll give it for 6. Then I'll get a space 7. Get it for G. Clear? Make sense? Okay, so I have a question again. Is it okay if I open any kind of file like Excel, Word? Good question. So right now I would say this is not an ideal way to open a Word or Excel here with an open function. Okay. So to handle complex files such as Word, PDF, CSVs, Excel, there is another standard way of reading it. So assume, for now, take this as only for the text files. Okay. So plain simple text format. So this is where it is more useful. And again, if you want to work on the advanced, the more complex data types like Excel, CSV, Doc, PDF. So for that, we have special operands, and we'll be looking to that as well. So, but that's part of tomorrow's agenda, and we'll look into that as well. But this is for specifically on opening the file on the fly, which is a notebook text format. Okay, I hope I answered your question. Cool, great. So now let's talk. So we understood the read operation, pretty simple, nothing very fancy in that. So let's try to understand the write operation. Okay. So now here, although we have what? So we have a geek.txt file. We already have that, right? And in that we have the content. We already seen that we have the content like hello and geeks for geeks. So this is my content there, right? But now what I'm doing is I'm gonna create a file. So geek.txt file. I'm gonna write on top of this, right? And what I'm going to write, this is the write command, and it allows us to write in a particular file, something like that. Okay. So let's run this. And now once I've run this, now let's see what is my content of GeeksForGeeks. Can you see this? Now the GeeksForGeeks content got completely changed. So this is the write command. It allows us to write in a particular file. But did you also see that I did not, just a minute here, if I do it like this. So here, since I have not specified a particular end of line here, I have not specified the end of line characters. It is printing the content in a same line. But howsoever, did you notice this write command is writing the content whatever I'm passing here on the file which I just opened. So the same geek.txt file, although the file was existing. So here with the write mode, right? So you remember I told you if you use the write mode, it's gonna overwrite the content of whatever we have, right? It's gonna overwrite the content. So now here what we have is it's gonna overwrite the content with whatever I'll be passing here. So now the updated content will be what I have passed. So these will be the 2 lines which I've passed here, right? And at the end I'm using file.close. So this close command terminates all the resources which we have used for writing the the content into the file. Okay. So when you have created, when you're doing the write operation, right, it's always advisable to at the end you write the file.close. That means that you have shut down the operation. So that shows that there's no more content which is supposed to be added in that file. Otherwise, if you don't do that, the compiler will still be expecting you might be giving some more write operation on top of that. Okay, so it's always advisable to do file.close if you do a write operation. Make sense, guys? Now here we have another very good function called as append. So just the add-on to what it was doing in write. So in write, we were kind of overriding the content, right? So overriding the content if the file already existed. But in the append mode, what it does, it will append, it will add the additional information which we have here on the same file, whatever it is existing, right? So if I do it like this, I've done this, right? So I've run this file. Now again, if I call the same file, right, I'll get one more file added here. So this will add this line, right? So can you see this? I've added one more content here. You got it? So it's more like a text file operation. Okay, so I've started slow here. So consider this for my plain simple text file. So for the complex doc, PDF, Excel, CSV, we'll have a separate session on that. So we'll be covering it. Okay. Clear? Make sense, guys? Any questions, any trouble, anything which you want to ask about? Great. So with this, let's proceed to our another very good function here. So which we have in terms of rstrip and lstrip. Okay. So we have two more functions available. That is rstrip and lstrip, which is used to handle our files, right? So what it does, the rstrip or the write strip, okay? R is for R here, R is for R, so R is for write, so R is write strip and L is L strip, left strip, okay? So what they do is, they kind of strips off your white spaces from your text. So for example, suppose if this is your text, okay? So our text is like this, and it says, is a text, right? And I have some leading spacing character and my name Arpit. Okay. So we have encountered the data, right, in such a way where we have some leading white spaces. It could be in the front, it could be in the back also. I could have the leading white space at the end also, right? So this is not required. This is an added unwanted characters I have in the data. So when you go for the data cleaning, right? So we perform a lot of data cleaning on top of my data analysis job, right? So these functions comes handy. So now if you want to strip off your, the empty white spaces, which is leading on the left side or trailing at the right side, right? So L strip, R strip, you can use that. So this is very, very useful function. You can call this. So how we can use this? For each of my line, I can always call L strip or R strip to just, kind of wind off of whatever, leading white characters I have in my text. Cool, makes sense? So very interesting function, right? So now here I wanted to show you one more thing. So here I have another way of kind of reading or writing the file is by using a with operation. Okay, so instead of simply using a file, so here what we were doing, so while opening a file here, right, so we were writing like this. So file is equal to open, and then open the file name here, and then I have the mode, right? This is the syntax I have. But we can also do it on the fly. So we can use it using a with operator. Okay, so by using a with operator. So here in with, we can write with open, and in the syntax remains like as file. So instead of writing this thing as like file is equal to open, and I have the file name here, and then I have the mode, I would be doing what? The same thing as with open, and then I'll be giving the file name, and then I'll be giving the mode here. This remains the same, right? As file. Cool. And now things remain the same. You got it? Makes sense? Right? So this is how it moves like a loop for me, right? So now this is like I'm giving a colon here. So now whatever content I'll be passing, it will be valid till the time this loop is existing. So here I won't be needing to write a file.close like kind of a thing, because the existence of that code will be only valid till the time my with loop is running. Okay, so now if I have a content like this, so data is equal to file.read, if I'm doing something like this, right, so it'll be valid till the time my code is running in the loop. Okay, so this is how another way of writing the read write operation on my files. Cool. Let me show you that. So if I do it like this, so I have my file read as file, and then I'll be seeing the file as this. So now I can also print data here. I can see data. So data is like a hello world in my file.text. Okay, say plain simple as that. Now I can also do like if I can also do write operation. Read is simple, so I've read it here. I can also do a write operation, specifically mentioning the write here. I can do it like hello world, and then I'll also pass one more content. So it's gonna no, so hello, I'm gonna write like this, hello, how are you? That's, I can do this also, right? And then if I now again read this, so it'll be like hello, how are you, not the previous content, right? So remember guys, so this is how we work on top of it, right? So we have also another operation. So the same thing, opening a file and closing the file can be done in two ways. We can also use a direct open operation and defining it into the file, which is my variable here. And also we can use a with operator, which will be more like a iterator loop for me, okay? And I can open the file and then do whatever functionality I want to perform on top of that. Clear? Any questions, guys? Any questions? Do let me know. Right? So we'll take one more good operator here, split. Okay, guys. So do not sit idle. If you have any questions, just say yes or no or hello in the chat. Or I mean, if you have any concerns, please type in your question. I'll be more than happy to take that. Okay. So let's try to interact and let's try to talk and let's try to have questions as many as possible. Okay. Thank you, Akash, for mentioning that. And Ali, Vasant, if you have any other questions, guys, please let me know. Okay. This is important. Okay, so this is like we are taking one step ahead. So we were discussing about the basic functionalities in Python. Now we are moving towards the data analysis, the actual data analysis, right? So we're discussing about the files. So the data, where actually the data is. So we are talking about the text files right now. But again, as you know, we'll be please moving towards anything will like the complex files such as Excel, CSVs. We'll be talking about PDFs, doc, right? So we'll move gradually towards in that area, but eventually to start with, we need to have the base ready, right? So clear. Okay. Thank you so much, Ali. I hope people are liking this. Right. So now split functions. What does split do here? Okay. So split, as in, it's pretty much clear anyway from the function, right? So split, what it does. Here we are using the split to actually split up the content, right? So it splits the variable whenever we are encountering any of my logical splitter logic. I mean the variable on the condition on which I'm trying to split here, right? So by default it's a space. Okay, so wherever, if I'm not specifying any character here, any specific pattern, so by default it'll take it as space. Okay. So now what I want here is, for example, as you know, so I have this content as file text and then I'm reading these files, right? So now what I'm doing is, for each of my line in data, I'm doing a line dot split. Okay, so for wherever I'm having this data, right, I'm doing a line dot split operator, which is nothing but giving me the split data now. Okay, so now look at this. Let me just show it to you. Did you notice? So here I had what? So I had this content, hello, how are you, right? So I have 4 different words for me, correct? And each of these is separated by a space. So I have a space here, then I have a space here, then I have a space here. So each of them are separated by a space, right? And also, did you notice in hello we have a small comma operator also here added together? Did you notice this one, right? Because did you notice here I've written hello, comma, and then there is a space. There's no space between hello and comma, right? So this hello and comma are taken as one single unit for me. Okay, so this is something which we have to understand that. Okay, so now once we have passed this split operator on top of the content which I have in the text file, it's gonna return me the split sub elements of my text. Okay, and what are my sub elements? Hello with a comma, how, are, and you. Make sense, right? And also remember, guys, so what exactly it is doing? So it is giving you a file in what format? The output is in the list format, right? The output is in the list format, correct? Now, if I want to call word, so for example, word. So if you call word, which I have just created using the split operator, right? I have my 4 different elements. Now, since this it's a list, right? I can perform my list operation on top of that, right? So for example, here, if I do it like this, like length of word, if I do, I can find out the length of my word, which is 4, pretty much valid, right? Now, if I call, say 0, I can call the 0 operator. You got it? Make sense? Is this point clear, guys? Okay, so I think we have a question from Akash. He says, if file is overwritten, can we undo the operation? It's a good question, very good question, Akash. I believe no. So here I'm actually unsure of this, to be honest. But as far as my experience says, we cannot undo that unless and until you have a backup of a file prepared, right? But once the file is overwritten, the content is gone. Okay, so you cannot really you cannot undo the write operation here once the file is written, because there is no memory kind of a thing, right? So there is no memory once like it is getting stored, unless and until you have write the logic before writing it. But explicitly, you cannot undo your overwritten step, actually, Akash. So I mean that is the reason why you have to be very sure of what you are writing, right? So, but that's how it is. But again, so coming back to a content split, so split becomes very important functionality in this case, where we are talking about how exactly my content will be put up here, right? So now split is actually a very important function. So it is very oftenly used in the strings, right? And the very important thing to know is the output type of the data type of my output elements after using the split function is a list, right? And then on top of this list, you can perform any operation which you've already studied on list. The indexing, the length, so whatever we have studied right on the list, it's all valid here. Got it? Clear? Make sense? Cool. So, okay, fair enough. So now let's proceed with some basic functionalities as I was talking about, right? So few of the very important file handling operators in terms of renaming the files, removing the file, making a directory, changing the directory. So these are very standard basic operations which we generally need to perform. I mean, right? So we are supposed to do this, and we kind of have trouble in doing all of this. So for any file handling kind of operations, we have a very good library called as OS. So I was explaining it earlier, and somebody asked me this question, right? So this OS operator is having lot many functionalities. It's not only one or two, it's like multiple operations. I'll just show it to you. So what are different things which you can import? So for example, if I do import OS here, right? And now if I just see OS dot, and if I do a tab here, I'll just get the list of operations which it can perform. So look at this. I have access, I have change directory, chdir, I have ch mode, change mode, I have default path, I have current directory, I have environment variables also I can define, right? So a lot of things, man. So see, again, I cannot simply tell you all the functions in this class, but again, I can give you a brief up about this library. So this is a very good handy library to perform all of your data file related problematic things. So like renaming, changing, moving, shifting, deleting. So all of these will be handled by using your library function called as OS, right? So you have get CWD, you have and then you have you can kill the operation also from your list directory. I was talking about this list dir, right, in the function. So you can list the directory also. You can make the directory using mkdir. So likewise, we have multiple such operations in the OS. So if you do not know the right function, you can always do OS dot and then do a tab. So when you do a tab, right, you'll get the list of operations which can be performed on top of OS library. Like for example, here, if I want to rename a file, very simple operation, right? So nothing very fancy. If I want to rename a file, simple function rename, os.rename, the syntax is current file name and then the new file name. What is the current file and then what I have to rename it to, right? So likewise, you can see this. I have this file test1.txt. I want to rename it to text2.txt or any name in that sense, right? So I can just rename the file. And again, here also it's pretty much valid. If, for example, if your current directory is not where this file is present, you have to again specify the entire path, okay, where exactly this file is present. That is also pretty much valid. You have to look into that, okay. So we can rename the file, and also the next is removing. So once you have now done renaming, you want to remove the file. Simple operation, os.remove, pretty simple function. So this remove will be removing this file, deleting this file basically. Again, we have something called as make dir. So if you want to create a new directory, so suppose as I said, I was using a new folder, right? Under new folder, I have another subfolder called as gfg, and I want another new folder called as gfg2 to be created. So I can use os.mkdir, and from the directory where I want to create this, I can just pass the name of the directory and it will create a new folder for me. It's like creating a new folder kind of a thing. Okay, so that's os.make directory for me. I have os.change directory, so I can also change the directory. So for example, suppose as I was saying, right? So if I could see this file text2.txt is not in the file which I am where I am running this code right now, the directory from where I'm running the code, right? I can always change the directory in the background. So I mean, I can change it to wherever I want this to from this to be executed. I can change the directory to wherever this has to be executed from, right? So this, I can pass the directory there, and I can now if I run this, I'll be able to execute because now the directory has been changed, right? Likewise, get cwd, which like will give me the display the current working directory, right? So for example, if you do not know where you are, right, what is the current working directory, right? So this always helps you to list down the current working directory. So it always helps. Okay, so you have os.get working directory. It'll show you the exact path. For example, I'll show it to you here. So like this. So I have something like this. So it'll give you the entire path where exactly the file is. Okay. So likewise, remove directory. I can also remove the directory. I mean, if I don't want that folder to be present anymore, I can simply pass os.rmdir, remove directory. I can pass the name. Okay. So now at last, I'll give you two more things. So we have exceptional handling also, right? So we can do an exceptional handling if suppose I want for any file you are using, right? So if you get an error, so we can handle the errors as well, right? So how you can do that? So we have a very good functionality called as try and except. Okay. So what is the syntax here? For example, if I'm performing any action, right, and I foresee that this might give an error. So what will happen in the Python computation? Once you get an error, the compiler stops computing post that. It'll give you an error. It comes out of the operation, right? So the operation will stop it there and there, right? Then and there. So, but if you want that, if you're getting an error, the compilation should not stop. The kind of operation should not stop. Rather, it should skip that error and do something else, something like of that sort, like an exception handling, right? So for that we have try and except. Okay, so what this do? So look at this function. So for example, suppose I'm opening a file, test file, and I'm writing this into W, right? And what I'm writing is this is my test file for exception handling. Okay. And now what I'm trying to do here is, just a minute, what my code says here is, if first it will try this operation, okay? It'll try this operation. If this operation is successful, there's no problem at all, okay? If there is an exception of input output error, it'll print this error. Look at this. It won't come out of the compilation. It won't stop processing the code. It will still give you an output here. So if you get an error, it will print this message: print error, can't find file or read data. So I can again obviously write anything here, right? Or else, suppose if this is done and now I want to perform something else also on top of this. So this is my else statement, right? If there is no exception, then this block is executed. Got it? So for example, here, look at this syntax. So if first you do try, so you do your operations here. So first of all, this is my first thing which I'm going to try. This is the first thing which I'm going to try. Okay. If there's one exception, and there could be multiple such exceptions, right? So if suppose exception 1 is raised, so I'm going to do this. If exception 2 is raised, I'm going to do this. So I can write for each and individual exception errors. I can define that. And then if no exception happens, then you try this. This is my else. If there's no exception, I'm going to execute this block. Got it? Now look at this, the running system. Did you notice? So first it tried this. It did try this. So it created a new file, test file. it did write it did use a write operation. It wrote this data in that. This ran successfully because this did not get into this error. This ran successfully, so there was no error. Else it went here and now it printed. So file written got written successfully. So you got a message here, written content in the file successfully. You got it? Clear? Now, for example, suppose if I have say A, B, C, D here, and if I do a read operation here, right? So, and then if I do a read and I do not pass anything here, and I do a print of, no, I should not do a print. I'll get it here. So if I do it like this, now look at this. So now there is no file called as ABCD, right? So ideally it should have given an error here, but it did not return any error. It printed this. You notice? So error can't find file or read data. Can you see this? It did not give you the tremendous error which was giving it in an earlier stage, right? So here we handled the error. We wrote an exceptional handling code for me, and we figured out how I'm going to handle this error. And like this, if you don't want to print it, if you want to do something else, right, you can perform any other action. You can maybe read another file here, do something else, right? Maybe write another try except here on top of this. So a lot of things is possible. So it's just like how you handle your error in the files. Make sense, guys? At last, we have try and finally. This is also very interesting. Okay, so try except and try finally. This is also very interesting. So here the finally block is a place to put any code that must execute without fail. Okay, so whether the try block raise an exception or not, it has to be executed. Okay, so this is a must for me. This is a must. Even if there is an error, there is no error, it does not really matter. This will be executed. This is a must for me. Okay, this is the reason why I'll be using finally here. Okay, so if I do it like this, I'll get this message because this is what it has to be printed. This will be executed. And this is again anyway getting executed, right? So this will be getting executed as well as I'll be executing this because this is a must do for me. Okay. Clear, guys? So with this, we are pretty much done with our file handling session. Okay, so we have learned the very basic, I won't say very basic, but we have still learned the good content about how you're going to handle the file. Okay, so we have seen how you're going to, kind of handle the exceptions also. Okay, so any questions of whatsoever we have discussed so far, guys? Any questions? There's no need to remember all of the built-in functions, Akash. Okay, that's a very good question though. There's no need to remember any of the built-in functions. It's more like, more you practice, right? More you'll get to know this. So more you practice, more comfortable you will be. So eventually you'll start remembering it, right? So the answer to that is how you gonna remember this? It's by practice. So start practicing the questions. Okay. So anyway, we'll be, as I said, so we'll be doing the practice questions also. So don't worry about that. So we'll plan another playlist for that. But at least try, handling the questions on your own. Okay. So this will always help you. So if I have to suggest you to, how you're gonna remember that? It's only through practice. There's no other logic to that. Okay. So another question from Vasan sir, can you give any example for R split and S split for better understanding? Yes, why not? Why not? So as I said, so for example, I have a text file as say, for example, is ABCD, right? And then if I do text dot L strip, now I'll get, so the leading spaces here got stripped off, and I only got so the leading space is my white space, right? So this got stripped off and I only ended with the content, which is ABCD. You got it? Like the way if I have say leading space in the right side, for example, this. So in this case, I have to give R strip. So I'll get still the same thing. So now this right side leading space got removed. Okay. So we have a question from Vandana. She says, is finally used even when there is no error? Yes. So even when there is no error, this is a must do for me. Okay. So even if there is no error, finally will still perform that action for me. Okay. Okay, so we have a question from interpreter and compiler. Could you explain what is the difference between interpreter and compiler? Okay, I have to explain in a more logical way. So interpreter, think from a logical perspective again. So compiler is nothing but it is valid for any of your language. Okay, so be it Java, be it any other language. So compiler is basically a inbuilt kernel which is compiling your or kind of uh, how can I say that, man? So you are kind of processing your code, and ultimately machine कैसे run करता है? Machine runs on the binary code, right? So you're kind of converting the the code into a machine language. That's what the compiler does. So compiler converts your actual user kind of user code to a machine level code. So that's what the compiler does. It compiles your information. Okay. And interpreter, it's more like you're gonna interpret the kind of information which you have given. For example, suppose if I'm writing a Python code for me, right? So Python code, the Python function is more different. So in that case, I'm trying to interpret what Python functionalities are available for me. It's more like a front end kind of interpreter. So it's not related to my machine backend language. It's more like a front end language interpretation. So that's a core difference. Okay, that's a more of a lingual difference in terms of interpreter and compiler. But again, we can go more technical in that. So I think that will confuse you at least at this stage. But again, that's fine, guys. So I hope I made sense, and this is pretty much good. So tomorrow, what we are planning, guys, is so we are planning to have the more detailed session on some of the complex files, such as if we are looking towards doc file, PDF files, CSV files, right? So I'll just show you how we can read it. So I won't go very deep in the data analysis of such files. I'll just maybe give you a flavor of how we can read those files at least. So we got a recommendation from one of the students. So we'll be taking that tomorrow, and then we'll see, right? So how we can have at least the file handling of some complex files can be done. So we'll seeing maybe some good libraries again. Okay. Cool, guys. Great. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give your evening back. Then see you tomorrow at the same time, 10 p.m. With the new content. We'll be talking about advanced, file handling with some complex data types. Cool. Thank you so much. Till then, stay safe. Happy learning. See you tomorrow, same time, 10 p.m.